Randy Gerber.
Randy Gerber.
Randall Gerber. You know, you're not a Randall to me.
It's funny you say that, because when I was about 30 years old, I asked my mom, why did you name me Randall? Like, it's, first of all, let's start Randall or Randy. Why? and she looks at me with a straight face and says, because we thought maybe you'd be president of the United States someday. Like, that's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. So
I mean, the percentage is what? 0.0002. So let's name him Randall.
Right, exactly.
But you're a Randy.
Yeah, which is worse.
You know what you are to me? Like, because I was thinking about you and looking at
Right.
you know what I could of you on online, because you're not on social media, but you have a lot of testosterone.
Yes.
And you're an alpha, and so
Yes.
I'm like a, you know, like my nickname has been man-eater in the past, jokingly.
That's fair.
Which I take lovingly,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
But it brings out my man-eater. Like, I can feel the sixth sense coming out where I'm like my alpha.
Got it.
The pheromone
Yep.
locks in with your testosterone. I think if you have a high
Yep.
testosterone.
I do.
So we've had a good, I think, fun banter and chemistry since we met each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like you're the guy that we'd have a conversation and then you just check somebody against the wall if you need to.
Yes.
And I can appreciate that in a person.
Yes, yes. You either love it or hate it.
You're polarizing.
I can be. I had a prospective client a year ago. Maybe it was actually this year. She called and we had this great meeting, really get along. And at the end of it, she says, she kind of giggles, says, I really have to ask you a question. And I'm like, an awkward question. I'm like, well, sure, what is it? She said, I've talked to a lot of people about you, and they kind of all say the same thing. You're going to love them or hate them. She said, why is that? And I'm like, well, because I tell you how I feel, whether you like it or not. And some people love that, some people don't. And so that's kind of a divide line, but I got over a long time ago that I'm going to do it anyways. I do it nicer now than I used to at 55.
So when I can meet someone who I'm like, oh no, he's going to just give it to me, it establishes credibility,
Right.
trust, and I'm in.
Right. You know, one of the things too I've learned specifically with entrepreneurs is the more direct you are, the better they are answering the question. What I mean by that is because you just said their heads are spinning so many different directions and they're processing so many things at the same time that you have to help them get to the point.
Yeah.
Because they may have some baggage with an issue bringing up, not bad, just baggage, you know, and oftentimes you have to help them really understand the question you're asking. I think that we're in a business of identifying root issues and root solutions, and it's hard, which is why. Back to the word choice, I've really learned it's instinctive now to every single word I use matters to help the person I'm talking with, really understand what we're trying to get to. Because it's always about helping them. It's not about me; it's about them. And so, but they don't know sometimes. And I think that's in general in life.
Yeah.
So
I don't know a lot of shit.
we all don't know a lot of shit.
So for people out there, a lot of people are like, well, who the hell is Randy Gerber and what's your relationship with him? So backing up a bit, we met initially because of SOS. Gretchen and I,
That's
and
right.
Courtney at the time, came in. You own a company called Gerber.
Yep.
And your goal in life is to help entrepreneurs build wealth through a process that
Yep.
is specific to your organization. I think you're very good at what you do.
Thank you.
You and I have kept in touch over the years, and I just find you to be a very valuable person that I kind of have in my network, and I can just reach out to here and there. And now here we are.
Yes.
For the entrepreneurs out there, I feel like your ears, if they're not perked up, they should be, because this is going to be about 45 minutes of free information and valuable resource for entrepreneurs, right? So let's start with, why did you start Gerber? What were you doing before then that led you to say, you know what, I want to make my life's work helping entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I went to Ohio State. I'm from a small town in Buffalo, New York, where two big employers, and most of the folks that work there, my friends' dads, were engineers. So I did well at school mathematically, did well in the SATs and all that, and the math. And so I think that I want to be an engineer. And so I go to Ohio State on an engineering scholarship. And realized my sophomore year that not so much, not for me. And it was the socialization piece of it that I didn't love the work necessarily, but it definitely was a socialization piece. And so I'm panicked sitting my junior year of college, like, okay, I'm not going to be an engineer, so all that ever would be. What am I going to do? And talking to a friend of mine who had this internship at a financial planning firm, which, keep in mind, this is 1989. and financial planning was a new thing, right? It was not ubiquitous like it is today. And so he said, "Hey, I'm graduating. I have this internship. I can get you the job." I'm like, "Sure. Like at least I can put something on my resume, right?" No clue what it is. And I go to work at this firm, and they were innovative, very innovative at the time, and really, and I didn't realize it, but they really were. And as I was there for a while, I'm like, this is pretty cool. You're working with people. I understand the content, and they make a lot of money. Like, I can do this. And so I graduate, and much to my mom's disappointment, who wanted to name me after the President of the United States.
You really let your family down.
Oh, you have no idea. And my brother's got Todd and Brad as names. Like, that was far better than Randy.
Actually, not to take this down a rabbit hole, but there's never been a better time for somebody to come in and sweep the election than now. So if you want to, I'm looking for somebody to follow. So
right. Yeah, I hear you. Not me. So anyways, I tell my mom, I'm just going to start my business out of college. And she literally starts crying because she thought, I thought you'd be president of a big company, da-da-da-da-da. Why can't you go work for Procter & Gamble? And I'm like, I tell you why, because I'm not going to interview. And I literally didn't interview anywhere else, didn't do anything, just started my business. And of course, not being from Columbus and pre-internet, pre-cell phone, pre-all that, I had to pick up the phone and cold call people. So I literally was calling people out of phone books. I get company directories. My trick, my secret was the promotions and every Monday in the dispatch and every Friday in Business First. I call those people and congratulate them on their promotion and then say, I'm trying to be a business leader. You are too. Let's meet. And so anyway, that was 1990. Go 10 years selling anything to anybody. And after 3 years, I realized I had an opportunity. Something was good was happening here. And so, I got lucky, very, very lucky that the stock market went straight up over that period of time. So, making our clients money, I think I'm smart. My clients think I'm smart. So it's a win-win. 2000 happens, the first time the stock market goes down in a 10-year period of time. Realize I'm not so smart. Clients realize I'm not so smart. And 2001, market goes down a second year in a row. And that hadn't happened since 1973 to 1974. And 2001, my wife had our first child. I'm kind of miserable at this point in time because people are upset. It's my first experience with losing money for clients. Realize all the things I did wrong when we were onboarding people in the late 90s, of the questions we didn't ask, conversations we didn't have. And it was rough. And so 2002, the market goes down a third year in a row. And so now it's the middle of 2002. That hadn't happened since 1929, 30, 31. So there's really nobody to help me even understand this because it's the first time, right? And I'm miserable. I'm in therapy at this point, and I think it's all my fault, right? That I'm losing clients' money. And I realized at that point, like, you know what? I like being in the advice business. I like being in the business with people. I really don't like some of my clients, and I like other clients, and I'm making too much money to get out of this. So I felt very trapped. It was very, very miserable. And I'll never forget this. In 2003, so the market's not going down at this point in time. It's 2003, and I'm like, okay, if I were to start over again, what would be the ideal scenario? What would it look like? And I'll never forget where I was. I was in a boat in Washington, D.C. in the Potomac, and it just hit me. I said, I would only work with entrepreneurs. That'd be it. And I became completely obsessed with that thought. Started talking to people, started, just running by everybody. And every single person thought I was nuts. Like, you can't do that. That's such a small population. Then it got worse because I'm like, oh, it's not just entrepreneurs. It's first-generation entrepreneurs. It's people who start the business, who have skin in the game. And then people thought I was really crazy at that point in time because that's a really small population. And the reason why I came to that conclusion, I've left an important part out, is one day I put every single client's name on a spreadsheet. And I went through and I rated them. Like, do I love them, like them, or dislike them? And it was so obvious. The theme was I like my entrepreneurs.
Can I say something
Sure.
real quick? Because it's so relevant. I'm reading a book right now, and I can't even remember who recommended it to me, and it's not even a book I would normally read. It's called .com Secrets,
okay,
or something. It's somebody's, like, this guy, I think his name's Russell. He apparently, marketed it to me because he's a marketing genius. But anyway, one of the big things in this book is when you are starting a business, and so many people don't do this. whether your business is brick and mortar, online, it doesn't matter. One of the main things you should do as a business owner is sit down and say, who is your dream customer?
Yeah.
And you don't do that. People don't do that because, like, okay, here I have this product and this service, and I'm so, my ego, like I want everyone to love me and I want everyone to buy this. But then what happens is, what happened to you? Yeah. You find yourself not liking the people you're selling to. So for people out there who are starting, that's a huge thing you did intuitively to say, who do I want to serve? And make that dream client and literally make it an avatar. And the guy went as far as to name them. So you had one named Julie and one named, I can't remember the guy's name. But I was like, it was such a takeaway for me. And it's very timely that you brought that up.
And it's hard because we work with, we have 3 different programs, and our foundational program is for businesses from $300,000 of sales to $1 million of sales. And, it's a 1-year program to get people literally to get to a $3 million gross profit company, which is at $3 million gross profit, you can build out a leadership team and you have a sustainable company. The challenge with the ideal client thing, and you're spot on, and I think you have to, when you're starting a business, you have to dream about that. You have to really understand who that is, but it's not going to be your first client.
Right.
And because you're in survival mode, and and you're in survival mode with who you're selling to, you're in survival mode with who works for you, you're in survival mode with your marriage and your friends. It's just tough, right? You have to keep pushing towards that ideal client, but just keep in mind it's not going to be there out of the gate.
But I argue that you decided, though, you said, I want to work with first generation entrepreneurs, so therefore those are your clients.
Right.
So you did, even if it's not even if that first person isn't like your favorite, it still fits that niche.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. And we actually, May of 2004, we went through and fired our 10 biggest asshole clients. And I will tell you.
Did that feel so good?
Oh my God.
How'd you do it?
So funny. I was intending to do it January 2nd of 2004. I did it May 14th of 2004 because it took me that much time to get up the courage to do it.
Really, Randy?
I don't know. It's hard,
the man made of steel in my eyes.
So as direct as I am, I appreciate. I mean, I had a lot of thankfulness for these people betting on me, and because ironically, these 10 asshole clients, probably 6 of them were our biggest clients. They were CEOs of companies, and they didn't own the company, but they were in the C-suite. And so it was a combination of relationship, combination of guilt, and combination of economics. And so, but anyway, I fired the first one, and it felt so good. The second one was easy, and the third one, it just became a non-thing,
Like, looking back, were they assholes, or was it just not a fit? Like, were they actual assholes? They were?
What I have concluded over time is if you are successful to the point of working for a company, end up in the C-suite or a leader, you've learned to play the game, and win-lose is okay with you. And whereas entrepreneurs, for the most part, are win-win. And so there was for me, there was too much politicking, too much blame, too much win-lose. And once I identified that, it was clear as day that what it was, and I just couldn't do it. And we started focusing on entrepreneurs in 2005, and then 2007, the painful part, but the right thing to do for everybody, was we moved virtually all our clients off our books that weren't first-generation entrepreneurs. We found good homes for them, transitioned them, people got it, understood it. And then so since 2007, we've been, we really, I can think on one hand how many non-first-generation entrepreneurs we've taken. And so we have flirted with, we have some clients, we've had a few multi-generations that worked out great. We experimented with focusing on second generation, and at the end of the day, as a overall strategy, it's not going to work for us because the second generation still, until the parent dies, is out of they really aren't in control. So we're really sticking to our guns on the first generation part. And
sticking to your guns also with, you don't work with partners, right? At least that you didn't back when. We don't. We work with one person. Which I like, because the partnership, let's talk about the entrepreneurial partnership, right? And what you've seen. Yeah. It's, I get it. I've done it. A lot of people have done it, and when you have complementary skill sets or one person brings something significant to the table, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't get a partner, but I don't think it should be a reflex. Like, I think sometimes when people are starting something, they feel like they have more like if they bring someone else in, it's like, okay, wait, this will be more successful because it's easier than just betting on yourself. Maybe.
People think that. I mean, they're almost always wrong. I mean, having a partner is worse than being married because you haven't had sex with them at least.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, in my experience, most partnerships are disasters. The reason why I don't flat out say never do it is because we have had a handful of partnerships where 1 + 1 equaled 1,000. I can think of one in particular partnership that you've met these two guys, you would never in a million years understand how they were partners, friends, let alone partners, right? But they grew a business and when they hired me, they had 6 employees, and they sold it for $350 million with I don't remember anymore, 1,000 employees, and I don't think they've spoken to each other in 10 years. Since they sold it, but they grew a hell of a business and a lot of mutual respect. I think there was a lot of pain along the way, but they were a great partnership, and we have seen instances of that for sure. But most of the time, it doesn't work. So we only take one person as a client. We prefer to take the control person who can actually make decisions because if you're going to hire us, things are going to change. And so we need somebody who's going to be able to make that change.
Talk through, like, for someone out there listening right now who is an entrepreneur and they're like, okay, wait, I'm interested. Like, what exactly is this and what is he doing? So your perfect person out there, like the new entrepreneur, right, is?
So funny when you say new entrepreneur. We met a prospect last night who's been in business for 42 years and 69 years old. And this guy desperately needs our help. I mean, he knew it in about 15 minutes after talking that we can really help him a lot. So it's not new entrepreneur. It's a first generation, right? And when you introduced me that what we do, you said we help clients build wealth. That's true, but it's really incidental to the equation. And I can say that now, having done this for as long as I have, what we really do is help people grow their business with purpose. And what that means is that when the first step in our process, sit down with you and your spouse and really at a very root level, I mean, uncomfortably root level, understand what are your life goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And in my experience, most of the time, neither spouse has gone through the process like this before. They think about things, they talk about things, and we do, individual, what are your life goals? What are your life goals? And then as a team, what are your life goals? What are your business goals? And then what do you think your financial goals are? We change the tone of those questions because they don't know what their financial goals are. Right. They understand when we get through the process what their life goals are. They generally get what they think their business goals are. And then we now know what their financial goals will be as a result of those two things. So we really don't spend much time on that anymore. So once we understand those things, then we assess, okay, where is the business today? Where is your life today? And we know where you want to be. And so here's how you get there. Here are the things that are real problematic you have to fix right now. Here are things that you need to address in the next 2 or 3 years. Here's some strategy things that you have to really figure out over a longer period of time. And you build the business you want to have versus the one that's inflicted upon you. And so, it's a combination of, it's funny, I think about this all the time, and I think this is good timing, not bad timing, that when I had that breakthrough in 2003 about being, doing this for first-generation entrepreneurs, Google was just getting started. So there wasn't a playbook on how to do this, right? There wasn't, how do you help first-generation entrepreneurs grow their businesses? I mean, Jim Collins I think he'd just written his first book, so mm-hmm. It was a new thing. And so the way I did it was I talked to our clients who own businesses that were successful. So what'd you do? What were your pain points? Start asking questions, start paying attention. And then how can we help you? And so it's a very open-ended, conversation. It was very loose, and so we didn't have a business model around it. We just knew what we wanted to do. We didn't have a financial model around it, I should say. And so as time's gone on, we've really paid attention to those companies that have done well. Of course, today you can read anything about anything. But then we've really engaged in thought leadership too, trying to get ahead of one big hot topic we're about to pour into with our clients is, for our unique client base, how should what are the 7, 6, 5 things that you should run to with AI? What are the 5, 6, 7 things you should run away from? And nobody really knows at this point in time. And I'm not saying we do know, but we're putting a lot of effort and energy into that, and so because we're all going to be faced with how to decide how to use it, not use it, and how to use it safely. So, and so I think that's what's really helped us. And every time we do 3 meetings a year with our clients, and every single meeting we have their life goals on our top left screen. So when we're getting into a difficult conversation, we go right back to that. Okay, this is why we're doing it. Let's not forget that. And it is grounding to help the entrepreneur make decisions, because it's at the end of the day, most of the time they're people-oriented decisions. When you get down to brass tacks, they're people decisions that are hard. And so, but to make, is it for me or for them? Which one is it? And it can be a win-win. Can it be a win-win?
What are the most common personality traits that you see? And you're like, oh God, these entrepreneurs are all X, Y, Z.
Yeah. So they read the first 3 sentences of any communication, and it stops there. Okay. They're very politely impatient, and is a generalization. They're very fun people, which is like, I love people think that I was like smart in this transition in this strategy. I was completely selfish with it. Say I love to have fun. These people are great, and we can, it can be a win-win financially. So they love having fun, and so which allows me to be me all the time. I don't have to. That's one of the things I really love about what I do. This is who I am all day, every day. I don't have business Randy or home Randy, or football dad Randy. It's natural. And I think most first-generation entrepreneurs, certainly the successful folks, and that's one thing I always have to remember, that we're playing in a very unique universe, that, because there's lots of first-generation entrepreneurs out there who don't make it. There's lots of people who can't afford our fees. And so we're really living in this incredibly small universe of people. And so I think they're all fun, but the ones we have are fun, but they're successful, and the ones that we have are able to articulate their thoughts quickly, and so, but those are, and the other thing too, the common trait, probably the most important as I think about it, cup half full. Everything's an opportunity, nothing's a problem. Challenges, but it's an opportunity.
Of those entrepreneurs that don't make it, what would you say, in your experience, are those characteristics or their ineptness with certain things? What is it they're not getting or not able to make that jump?
Yeah. So I don't consider myself an expert on this topic, so let's be careful.
This is just your opinion.
Yeah, I understand. But even that, I just, I think most of the time they're not really committed. I think that they, and it's worse today than it ever has been, because people it's cool to be an entrepreneur, so they dabble in it. I think they're not committed. You can't dismiss luck, by the way. Luck's an important part of success and failure. That, we all have luck in business, for sure. You just hope the sequencing of luck happens at the right time. The good luck happens at the right time, the bad luck happens at the right time. I also think people oftentimes get into the wrong reasons. They start a business for the wrong reasons, and they're not really doing it for the right ones. Or they're not honest with the scope. So there's nothing wrong with having a $300,000 revenue business the rest of your life. Just keep in mind that's what it's going to be, So don't think that you should be a $3 million business, a $30 million business, if you're not going to treat it as such. If you're not willing to take the risk, you're not willing to do the hard things, then okay. But that usually, when people start a business, that's not where their head is, and they realize when they get to that $300,000, that is kind of an interesting number, that they don't have the fortitude to go to the next level, or they're too smart to do it, because a lot of times you have to be stupid, to go to the next level, because they go wow. And I think about some of the things I've done, and also some of the things that are like that was really dumb, but boy, did it work out.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the other side of this, the ones that have really done well and catapulted into this next level, what qualities, characteristics do they share?
I would not answer this question the same way 10 years ago, but for sure, the people who go to the next level understand strategy. They really understand strategy, and strategy is a part of their culture. It's part of their leadership team. It's important to have a great product and a great service people want. And I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs, you can own a great $30 million business and make $1 million, $2 million a year, and have great clients who are super happy and great employees who are super happy, but you'll never grow past that because you don't have a strategy, And so to go from that $30 million, which I think you can go a long way in brute force, I really do. But you get stalled unless you start developing a strategy. And strategy is hard, and that's one of the things that we're trying to get better to help our clients get better with strategy. Like, how do you develop a culture of strategy, and how do you develop a culture of sales? And those are two big things, because that's hard too. And unless you're that unique widget that everybody has to have, which happens occasionally, or you were lucky in that you happen to own a piece of land that you made a landfill years ago that the governments have to have, But for the most part, culture of strategy and culture of sales are two things that are elusive for lots of entrepreneurs that you have to figure out how to do. And it doesn't have to be you. It may not be your skill set, but you have to have that on a team.
Who comes to mind in that bucket of entrepreneurs that you've worked with that is just like represents like not the perfect entrepreneur, but someone that you're like, now this person crushes it and gets it?
Yeah. So, the delicate part of this, I can't tell you who. There is a person that comes to mind that has had two businesses, two really successful businesses. He sold one, I've lost track of time now, back in 01, 02. And he has another one right now that we're in the middle of talking to companies about buying it, and we're talking, it could be $1 billion. Yeah. It's he's really strategic, very, very, very smart, and he will sell this business, and he will probably do it again. I think he's got some more gas in the tank.
I need to meet this person.
You do. He's a little elusive.
I am too. No, actually, I'm not. I'm good with people who are elusive because I can take you down.
He's a great guy. I love him to death. He's just, he's been a client of ours for 10 years, and it's always fascinating to be with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we close out the business, Randy, is there anything else that you would say to people out there who would potentially, with their ear perked up right now, like anything else about you, the business?
One thought that I was answering a different question you asked, but one thought that rattles around in my head all the time that we talk about regularly. We hired a year ago a woman who specializes in accountability, team accountability, which I think is a great topic. I mean, that's one of the challenges growing a business is holding your team accountable, right? So you lay out your vision, you have your goals, you have your process systems, and then people aren't holding each other accountable as teammates, and the leadership's not holding the team accountable, and vice versa. And one of the terms, this lady, her name is Jill Young out of Dallas, that it's not just a term, I'm sorry, it's a whole process she goes through, is radical candor. And I think the sooner that you learn how to adopt radical candor, the quicker you get through the crap and you get to success. And so that's one of the themes in business. You can start with day one in your business. And so I wish somebody would have told me that back in when I first started, that, hey, embrace a culture of radical. It's one thing for me to do that, but somebody who's afraid to speak their mind doesn't help you, right? They have to have radical candor too.
I love that term.
Yeah, it really is.
And
it's
I
agree.
Not mine. I agree with that though.
Yeah. But it's a culture. It's not a person.
Yeah. Huh.
So.
Okay, so looking at a 360-degree, angle of Randy.
Yeah.
And this could be business, it could be personal, just depending on what you pick. What was a time that you can remember feeling the most alone, scared, panicked? Like, what was a real low point for you?
Oh, easy. We had a client, one of the people I fired, who I thought I threw her 50th birthday party. I thought we were good buds, and she was the CEO of a company, and she sued us for $14 million. And the scary part of that was at the time, my broker-dealer, it was the largest lawsuit they ever had. And the way because I've always been independent, so that lawsuit flowed to me personally, but they're named in it as well. And so they had to pony up the lawyers too. My E&O insurance only covered me for $1 million. So I'm doing the math like, ooh, this is a problem. And the lawsuit came February of 06, and December 15th, 05, I'd stretched to buy a house I really couldn't afford for about $1.23 million. So here I am, moved my family into this house in December, and my youngest isn't even a year old at this point in time. And I get this lawsuit out of the blue for $14.2 million. And her claim was that we didn't ask her to diversify her investments, and it's because she had $14.2 million of the company's stock that she was the CEO of. And she somehow forgot the 37 emails we had sent her the previous year about please sell the stock and diversify it. And she forgot that she sold $3 million of other investments to buy more of the stock. And she somehow didn't remember that when she was CEO, the stock went from $52 a share down to 10 cents a share. She forgot all that stuff somehow. And so, but regardless, we have a lawsuit. And none of my friends have been sued before. I tell Raymond James, a broker dealer, they're like, holy smokes. So I feel very alienated from them. I call one of my lawyer friends, Rex Elliott, who's a phenomenal lawyer, and he's like, wow, that was his first reaction. And so, my wife it happened on a Friday, and she had taken taken her kids out of town to see her family. So I'm literally alone at home. And it was, I just remember just being frozen. Like literally I sat there in my bedroom for probably, I don't remember how many hours, but many hours. Just couldn't do anything, couldn't move. I kept standing up to do the same thing over and over again. And so finally, after some period of time, I'm like, okay, I got to do something, So I just went downstairs. It felt like a win.
Right.
And so, and then she came home Sunday, and I told her, and it's hard to tell anybody, because of course what happens, she's scared as well too. And so it took a long time. And I'll never forget, so I get referred to the best law firm in certainly the Midwest, maybe the country, to defend this type of case. And like these guys a lot, they're really good. And they were fantastic. They were the best. And I remember, finally getting on the phone with them. And I said, well, clearly this is a frivolous lawsuit. And the lawyer said, it's not frivolous at all. The facts may be bad for her, but it's not frivolous. I'm like, oh, like that just kills it.
Right.
I start sweating, at that point in time. So it took months to not have it consume my thoughts all the time. And the further we got into it, I was always scared. Let's not get confused by that. But it didn't monopolize me after some period of time. And so finally we agreed to arbitration, and we sit down, and my anxiety's through the roof, nervous, excited, finally face to face with her in a room. And the first 3 minutes when my lawyer started, I'm like, oh, we're going to win this. Like I just knew at that point in time that she has no leg to stand on. So anyway, we ended up settling for $185,000. And my lawyer's really kind of one of the funny stories was we got the number down to call it, I don't remember, $500,000 or something like that. My legal fees were about $500,000, which insurance covers that. So so we got down below the part where I was not coming out of pocket anymore. I'm like, just settle it. And so Raymond James' lawyer was, and keep in mind, this is on me, right? Raymond James' lawyer was in the room, and they had, the way my contract worked with them, they had to approve the settlement if they're ever, So the Raymond James' lawyer says, no. I'm like, what do you mean, no? Like, this is over. We're under the insurance level, and he said, I don't have authorization to spend that much. I'm like, well, how much authorization do you have to spend? He said, 0. I'm like, what? He's like, we're not selling. This is a completely baseless, frivolous lawsuit. And so get on the phone with President Raymond James, like, look, this is killing me. You know. And so they ended up agreeing to like $400,000 or something like that. This is all happening in the moment, on the spot, right? We get down to $400,000, or get down to $400,000. My lawyer looks at me. He said, look, I'll settle right now if you want me to, but I can get her lower. I'm like, you can get her lower? He's like, for sure. I'm like, do it. got her down to 185 from four. So I had authorization of 400, got her down to 185.
What was her demeanor?
So I can't talk about it because I'm not allowed to, but there was one fact that I was kidding about. She forgot those things.
Yeah.
There was one fact she omitted from her lawyer about a relationship she was having that she shouldn't have had, that I knew about. And so that got exposed. And so her demeanor, she for some reason thought I wouldn't play that card.
Oh, I'm sure you're playing. I mean, if somebody sued me for $14 million, I mean,
card you have.
I think all bets are off.
Right. And so so it all ends. And of course, the legal community in this space is very friendly with each other. And so after the fact, I said, ask my lawyer. I said, we go to dinner afterwards. I said, can you find out why she did this? Like what, she settled for 180, so she knew she wasn't getting anywhere near that. And 2 weeks later, he calls me and says, yeah, I talked to her lawyer. And she just really thought that Raymond James was going to write a check. That we got to a certain point, would write a check because they're such a big company. And like, why did her lawyer do that? Like, it's because he went on a contingent fee basis. Oh, yeah, that's one other thing. During the process, she renegotiates his fee with him. She goes from 35% down to 25 or something like that.
So I have questions about this. Is this just the nature of what you do? Like, you're going to be exposed to this type of thing, first of all?
So it's the first and only lawsuit we've ever had. It was, in hindsight, a very educational experience. I learned so much. Our business got so much better immediately because of that. Now, luckily, we had done a good job with our notes, good job with documentation, and that's just kind of naturally who I am. So that was truly luck, good luck.
Yeah.
But now our process is so thorough, and so like we grew so much because of that experience. And to this very day, while it's not forefront of my mind, the accountability piece is so critical.
Well, but here's how I would look at something. Like if I hired you and we looked at my money and we made decisions together and we were all, in alignment, and let's say something happened, I would never think like, oh, you owe me that money back.
There's businesses built. I mean, there's one of our clients is Dave Meyer Wilson's probably one of the best law firms in the country for suing people like me. It's all he does. And they're really good at it. And, there's some legitimacy where there's some lawsuits where it's really abused by the advisor, right?
Okay.
For sure, without doubt,
yeah.
Right? There's a lot of sloppiness where I think, and that's where we weren't sloppy, just we could have been more thorough, right? And so I think there's a lot of sloppiness because there's a lot of lazy people in this business. And then there's great advisors out there who do a great job and really talk to their clients and hold them accountable and talk about it. I mean, 2022 wasn't a treat for the market. It was awful, right? And so one of the things that we did for all of our clients this year, we asked them like, okay, let's talk about how 2022 went for you emotionally. Like, how much did the volatility bother you? And did it not let you sleep at night? Where are you? And so nobody enjoyed it, right? We had some clients who were very, and last year was a weird year. It was the most difficult year in the stock market emotionally for clients that I've ever seen before. Worse than 08, 09. Even though 08, 09 was worse statistically, last year was so emotional for people because of the volatility. It was the most volatile year we've ever had. In terms of the number of days that the market went up or down by more than 2%, the most volatile year in history of the market we've ever had. So really took an unusual toll on people. Like you could see, you could feel it, And so we spent a lot of time asking this year, like, oh, let's talk about, because if it's keeping you up at night, let's make some changes now that we can make some changes, right? And it was a very therapeutic conversation and good. So like that's a result of the lawsuit, right?
It makes you sharpen your pencil for sure.
Yeah, well, you just have different reactions, right?
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of sloppy advisors they're as happy it's over. They're not talking about last year.
Do you think that she truly felt like you were negligent, or was she just a desperate woman who was like, I just lost $14 million and this is an avenue for me to potentially make up for some of that, and I'm just going to...
It's a latter for sure. And she's a person that's never been held accountable for her behavior, Yeah, it wasn't, in hindsight, it wasn't, she knew it wasn't us. It was a desperate move.
But she drug you through the mud like that.
Right.
Win-lose, right. Have you seen her or
Nope.
heard from her or anything?
Nope. I occasionally hear people who bump into her, but she's pretty much. I don't know where she is, but I haven't heard anything at all.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. All is well that ends well on that front. Right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing on that. So do you have more protection now for yourself from an insurance perspective?
Sure
okay.
Do. Yeah, I mean, the insurance thing and the risk management piece is real. Like, this is something people think I'm crazy right now. And I might be a little fanatical about this, but the whole cyber liability, cybersecurity thing, it's really real. It's very scary, and people are not taking it seriously. And particularly entrepreneurs, have to really work hard to get them to understand that it's a bigger risk than they think. Because most people think, what do we have? You'd be surprised, or just shutting you down. And it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So you have to build a team that understands, that technology risk is an issue and security is a huge deal. And you have to get the insurance. You have to do both. You can't just buy the insurance and be sloppy. And you can be in lockdown mode technology-wise, but you probably need the insurance too.
Yeah.
So
wild.
Yeah, it's just the world we live in.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm thinking wild more of that whole experience you went through.
Yeah. But. Again, it sucked. I was the question was most alone, right? But there's lots of people who have lots worse experiences than me, and that was.
I know, but we do that. We all do that, right? So I do that all the time, where I try to and that's perspective, and that's great, but it doesn't discount what it did to you.
No.
And that was a horribly stressful time for you, and just very scary for you and your family, and I'm sure had many negative ripple effects throughout your life. So, I mean, you have to give it its.
I did. The other thing that I guess a positive from it is telling my kids about it. And it was really interesting. I'll never forget where we were. And I don't remember, I think George, my youngest, was 7, which means Nico was 9 and Zoe's 11. And you got to tell them the amount of truth they can hear and understand, And George started crying when I was telling him about it. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. He goes, no, I was worried about me. Like what if I couldn't have gone to Barrington or Jones, and can't live in Upper Arlington? And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, dude, you're fine.
Hey, thanks, kid.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of your kids, so talk about you at home and what's going on with your life.
So chronologically, I'll start with my daughter, who, for what it's worth, those of you who have children who might be going to New York City to get an apartment, get ready. It's insane what's happening. And so she is probably right now marching to the bank to get a certified check to pay her future landlord the security deposit. But the process of getting an apartment in New York City, you have to do it in person. You can only do it a few weeks in advance. And unless you make $280,000 a year, your parents have to guarantee, which guarantee is sending your tax returns, sending your driver's license, sending paycheck stubs, which I don't have. I mean, I do, but and then an affidavit from your supervisor, which is me. It's electronically, and of course your kid's calling. It's got to be done right now, because it does have to be done right now. So anyway, she graduated from Ohio State. Great job in a global strategic marketing firm. Moving to somewhere in Manhattan, Grand Mercy in Manhattan, and doing great. So, and then my middle child, Nico, is a sophomore in Ohio State. He is in the College of Environmental Science. I wonder how long that lasts. In my opinion, he should be a high school teacher. Been working hard to get him to think that way, but he's not quite there yet. But he's a 20-year-old boy, and 20-year-old boys take a long time to process things. So hopefully he'll figure it out in a few years. And but he's doing great. He's happy. And then my youngest is a senior in high school and consumed with playing football right now. Had a big loss last week to Pickerington North, who's a very good football team. Mm-hmm. And last night, because I guess maybe I'm equally crazy with the whole thing, but we feed the varsity football team. We rotate every Thursday night with another family. And so last night we had the varsity football team over and made 100 and some odd burgers and lots of mashed potatoes. And they played football, had fire pit, and it was awesome.
Very cool. So home life, Randy, is...
It's busy. It's really busy. It's George, our youngest, he needs to send his siblings thank you notes every day because they ran so much interference for him that we didn't know how needy he actually is. I mean, every day is something. As an example, 2 days ago, he comes home and says, I think I have testicular cancer. And I'm like, why do you think that? He goes, well, there's a little nub in my ball. And I'm like, well, let me see that. And he's like, no. He goes to the doctor. I'm like, George, it's an ingrown hair. I guarantee it.
Is he like, does he get paranoid about stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure enough, he goes to the doctor, it's ingrown hair, right? And this morning on the way here, he comes walking in my room completely naked, just holding his junk and and asking where his jersey was. I'm like, don't know where his jersey is, but do you do everything good down there?
Oh my God.
Every day is a new day of drama.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
better safe than sorry with that stuff, right?
I agree, but he calls us 20 minutes before the football game. We were at Pick North last week. And he's like, Dad, can you go home and get my contacts? I forgot the extra pair of contacts. I'm like, no, I can't, because we're here. And he's like, what if they get knocked out during the game? I'm like, I don't tell you, bud, but I'm sure you got an extra pair in your bag somewhere.
Oh my God. Who's he like?
We don't know.
He's his own animal.
He is his own animal. He's awesome kid. I love him. He's just very dramatic.
Yeah.
He's very
all right.
dramatic.
Well, you know what? He probably adds excitement and spice into the
does. It'll be very interesting when he leaves, what happens in our household, because it's so much right now. Yeah. I mean, business is great. We have a great team. I don't. It's not dramatic for me, so I don't have to think. I think about it, but it doesn't monopolize my thoughts. Yeah. I think a lot about what's happening at home because of him. Because it's like the amount of time I think about what he could or couldn't do and all this shit. It's crazy,
Parenting.
Yeah. So a year from now, when he's gone, it's gonna be like, what? I'll be very curious.
You might wish for it back.
Not this. Maybe Nico.
Got it.
Not.
All right. Before we close out, though, did your mom finally say, Randy, I'm proud of you. I love what you did, and I'm not disappointed that you weren't the president of the United States?
She did. It really is funny you asked that question, because I was visiting her, which is, once or twice a year. It's just the two of us at her house up in Buffalo. And I think I'm like 41, 42 years old. And she said, can I ask you a really awkward question? I'm like, sure. She's like, what do you do? I'm like, what? What do you mean, what do I do? Like, how do you make money? And so I tell her the whole thing. And my mom is the most risk-averse human being on the face of the earth. And she is fearful to offend anybody. And so she said, how did you do this? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, she said, where did you come from? And I'm like, well, I came from you. It's like, yeah, but nobody in our family's like that, which is 100% true. Like I do wonder, like, where did this come from? There's no connection. I can't figure that out, but it is there, and I think a transition in college for me is where I really learned a lot of it. And the second thing, she goes, why are you so direct? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, Mom. It's just, but I'm 41 years old. So yes, we ultimately did have that conversation. And I remind her, I'm like, because I bring it up, I'm like, I'm still perplexed you thought I'd be president of the United States, And she said, well, I didn't know when you were a baby, like, I know, but those are strong odds.
But did that ever play tricks on your head, or were you just always like, whatever, it's my mom, she's just...
Yeah, it was whatever my mom. It was kind of like...
Some kids would be like, wait, that's a high expectation. If my mom's serious, or she has clearly had very high expectations in her mind of what she thought was success.
Right.
I feel like that would screw with some kids' heads.
Maybe I wasn't that thoughtful.
Yeah, maybe you're just kind of the testosterone out bulldog that you are.
I will say, it's so funny with my son George. So when we had our first child Zoe, my wife's Greek, and so our kids have Greek names. We knew she was a girl before she was born, and we named her Zoe, which means from life in Greek. Had a room painted, et cetera, et cetera. Wife gets pregnant with second child. His name's Nicholas. Call him Nico, another great, strong Greek name. And room painted, everything. And we said, with this third kid, I don't want to know the sex beforehand. I'm like, that's great. So it comes out, it's boy. And we're in the room. And, of course, the other two kids were born like at noon with no traffic. It's easy to get to the hospital. George, not so much, middle of the night, the whole thing. So we're sitting in the hospital room, and like, what are we gonna name him? And I started going like Pat Gerber on the tackle, Todd Gerber on the tackle, Gus Gerber on the tackle. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, I'm thinking about what a name would sound like over a microphone. And all of a sudden she's like, George Gerber on the tackle. And so, sure enough, George Gerber is a name, Greek name, and he's a linebacker.
I love that.
And it's 100. Like, I can't be more honest. I'm not sensationalizing the story at all for humor. I mean, literally, we're sitting there and like George Gerber on a tackle sounds great. And we didn't really debate if he played offense or defense or even play football,
Right.
But you know, so he loves telling his buddies that story.
Whatever works.
Yeah,
I love that.
right.
That's actually really cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you?
GerberClarity.com, www.gerberclarity.com.
Got it. And where they can find you on LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, of course.
And you need to get on Instagram.
I'm thinking about it.
No, we got to think harder.
Yeah.
We got to get with 2023.
Yeah.
You got things to say.
Yeah.
Hire somebody to help you with it. Let's get on Instagram, okay?
I know.
All right, Randy, thank you so much. This was an
Carrie.
absolute
Great.
pleasure. Time just flew by, of
Yes.
course. It
Yeah,
always does
always
when you're
does.
having fun.
Yes.
And for those of you out there still following your girl, please follow me on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. And until next time, keep moving.
Awesome.
That's great.
How many followers do you have?